So anyway, once we're done being selfish, we need to turn off the whole, it's a conspiracy. The only conspiracy is that we're choosing to not use our own tools, our own innate tools, the tools that we were born with and that continue to be buried on a daily basis with misinformation. We are choosing not to believe what our hearts tell ourselves. We are believing everyone else. Like, if your heart tells you, hey, I don't want to graduate high school and be a doctor, I want to be a musician. Well, because society sees musicians as, if you're not already out there and have a multi-million-dollar deal with some major record company, that you're not really a musician, or it's just a fly-by-night thing, and that whole Arrested Development shit. Well, no. If your heart tells you that you want to bring music to the world, then you do that. You bring music to the world. Fuck the noise. Bring it. Because we need it, obviously. If that's what's put on your heart, follow your passions. That's the problem with the majority of the world. That's why we have the great resignation, the great migration, that's what it feels like. Great resignation going on now. People are realizing, you know what, fuck these people. Fuck this world. We can survive. We put our minds to it. We can survive as long as we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And don't be just taking time and then don't ever get into anything. Of course, we all need breaks. We all need breaks. Take that time. But make sure you come back out on the other side of that break in your passion, whatever that entails. If it's art, if it's music, if it's science, whatever it is. Bring it to the world because we need it. And that's what's going on now. There's a shift in humanity. And that shift is fucking happening. We cannot stop it. Everyone is going through it. Even if we feel that we're not a part of it, we are. Because if you're listening to this podcast, that's a start. How about that? You're recognizing that things are changing. The patriarchal world that we knew is falling apart, and that's what needed to happen. It needed to implode. It needed to destroy itself in order for us to come back right. Just like any fall, any empire that was great and rose to its heights eventually fell. And when something falls, it can be built back up right. And that's what happens. It's just nature. We're at that fall now. We're in fall. Humanity's fall. Literally. This is autumn for humanity. So, let it happen. If something is pulling at you, eating at you, feed it. Don't continue to repress it. Don't try to continue to stuff that shit down. Let it out. It's like holding in a shit. Self-constipation. Don't let it happen. It's not healthy. A lot of people's problems, they're too fucking full of shit. Let that shit out. Let it thrive. Let it have a life of its own. Let it come to life. Because others in the world need it. That's the whole point. Every single one of us was born to bring something special to this planet. Every single one of us. Don't think that because you're a housewife, you have nothing to bring to this world. There may be a hobby that you love to do while the kids are at school, or even the empty nesters. Bring that shit to light. It's never too late. Never too late. Before you leave this earth, you are destined for some type of greatness, each and every one of us. So let it happen. That's why, again, another factor in the way this world was created, the one that we currently live in. Not many people have been doing that, have been living up to their passions and their hearts and their souls. They haven't been living. They've just been existing, and that's where we need to stop. We need to start living. Whatever that is inside of you, bring it out. Bring it out. Because that is the tool that you were given to make something in this world. Whatever it is. Think of it. If you're a parent, you give your children tools. You give them tools to be able to survive in this world and to make a difference in this world. You think God didn't do the same? When we were created, we were given tools to be able to affect this world. But if we don't use them, what the fuck is our purpose? Are we living purposefully? Genuinely? Are we being ourselves? Our authentic selves? because we were put here for a purpose. And that's our authenticity. No one else's. Each and every individual one of us, we have our own authenticity that we are supposed to put out into the world. Now, society's imprimatur is where we are now. Go to school, graduate school, go to college, graduate college, and to a degree that is supposed to help corporations get into business, work for a corporation as a drone, and then you retire. And then shortly after you retire, you die. That is supposed to be life, according to society, and society guarantees you a good life if you do it that way. No. That shit is over. Maybe that was the case back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, when Mad Men was really the life of people. No, not today in the 2020s. We're not doing that anymore. It stops. We're going to start living our own lives, the lives that we want to live and need to live within ourselves, that comes from in ourselves, and let it bleed out into the world. That's what we're doing now. We can't do that stuffed in a cubicle, listening to someone else tell us what to do. We can't do that anymore. It has to stop. Because there's someone out there in a cubicle or flipping a burger that has the next best idea that will cure cancer or a certain type of cancer, or bring a knowledge to us that will be able to feed everyone on this planet infinitely. Of course, a corporation wouldn't want you to do that. That's why we have those things that we have. If you can't afford to pay for food, then you die. That's why we're in that kind of world. And there are people who actually believe this. There are quote-unquote Christians, God-loving and fearing people who believe if you cannot pay for food, you should die. Those people should be the ones, because you do not remain blessed if you do not love your human brothers and sisters. You cannot be a productive member of society if you do not wish well for others. You can't. So in essence, you're the ones that's keeping us down, the ones that are struggling and trying to do better. You are the ones that are helping laws be passed, that if you collect rainwater, something that falls freely out of the sky, that you are imprisoned and fined. There are people who believe that to be okay. No. So you need to go. You need to be taken and your soul implanted somewhere else because you are defective. That's the end of it. Like, those are the people, that's, like, I'm still doing my research on this, but I think that's what's going on, the whole rapture. We don't technically know where they're going. There are people who are being removed because their time is up, but that could mean that they've done all of their good work and they're going for rest. And then there are people who are defective and those people need to be recalled. So, we can't definitively say we know where they go once they're raptured. So I believe that's either, if it's not going on, then it's coming, because we need that change. It's a sweeping change that has to happen. These people that are causing humanity such pain, they're going to start dropping one by one. All of these warmongers, these hierarchy chains, they're going to start crumbling from the top. The monarchs, things of that nature. Not all of them are bad, but the ones that are really doing things at the cost of their people, doing bad things at the cost of their people, at the cost of humanity, those are the ones that are soon to be recalled. But that's side information. We need to get out there, start living our lives, start helping others live their lives, and recreating a more just and beautiful world where we love one another and work together. That's what we need to do, where we need to be. We should have been there by now. We could have been a beautiful humanity, living in our own Edens where everyone is happy and fed and helping one another, doing their thing, where we aren't worrying about where food is going to be coming from, and shelter, and whether or not if something happens we'll be out in the cold without any help. We shouldn't be worrying about those things. Back in the day, people always took care of each other, no matter what, always. If someone needed food, neighbors band together and helped them. And when they got back on their feet, they gave back. Thus completes the circle. And all is well. Do we do that now? No. Someone falls short, well, you better figure it out. Or, oh, people just want handouts. Really? As if you've never had a bad time? Because we all go through those cycles. No one is immune. And I understand that there are people out there who are born into money and they could never understand that. Unfortunately, those are the ones who are poor souls. They're poor in understanding humanity because they've never been exposed to it. They've never been exposed to those hardships. So they're the ones that's also making the rules and the laws. And it's sad because they're the last people that should be doing that shit. It should be people who understand what it means to live paycheck to paycheck, or those who have been homeless to head up shelters run by the public, nonprofits, or cities, or municipalities. No, we have people who have always made money running these places. I mean, not administratively, but curating the programs. Like, if there's a homeless shelter, we shouldn't have someone who has never been homeless working as the head of development and so forth. No. That should be someone who's been out in the street before, who understands that struggle. Same with anything else. Legislation. Especially legislation. Because if you create a social services program and you have requirements for that program that are above what the people that actually need the program meet, like, just exit. Just leave the organization, let someone else get in that has that sense. Because if you're trying to get, for example, food stamps, you cannot make over X amount of dollars in general. Like, every state has their own. But I'm speaking mostly, and having worked for social services for a short time, like seeing the inside of this stuff. So you can't make X amount of dollars or you don't qualify. So at one point, the X amount of dollars was you couldn't bring home no more than, I think it was between $1,300, between $1,300 and $1,700 a month. If you brought that in, you couldn't qualify. Who the fuck can live off of $1,300 and still feed themselves? When rent, the cheapest rent I've seen, where a person wasn't literally living in a shoebox, a cardboard box with a cutout for a window, and you share a bathroom at the end of the corner, anything above that is easily going to be $500 or more dollars. Let's not forget electricity, cell phone. Like, you literally have to live barely live at the very bare minimum in order to be able to survive on that kind of money. What about transportation? What about clothes? They never factor that in. You can't bring home $1,300. You live in a room. Okay. 20 years ago, I was still in my early 20s and just trying to find my way in life. I was looking for places. Okay, back then you could find a cheap apartment and you could find rooms for rent. Okay, they were pretty decent. Find a room, share a bathroom and a kitchen. Great. It's only me and I'm barely home anyway. Whatever. $75 a week. That's like a fucking cheap motel. You have your own space. You just share a kitchen and damn bathroom. Whatever. It's like living in a house full of people. No problem. So $75 a week, 4 weeks, $300 a month. Great. $1,300 went a long way then. Of course, then you didn't have to pay for utilities. You have that kind of setup, or you may have to pay your $75 a week, and then you have an extra pool for a fee that $50 for the 4 weeks. That includes utilities, cable, whatever the fuck you want to have access to. It's still $300, $350 for a whole month of shelter with all your utilities. Great. So you have $950 left. You can buy yourself a cheap car after saving to get you back and forth to work, or you can use public transportation depending on where you live and so forth. I was in the city, but I worked in the county, so I needed my own transportation. Plus I had other things going on, like I always had 2 or more jobs. So catching public transportation wasn't feasible, especially if I'm leaving one and I have 30 minutes to get to the next. So you have this $950 left over and pay your car insurance probably for a cheap bullshit car, $100 a month. Or if you're young, wait a minute, let me go back. If you're young, then it's probably as much as your rent. So let's say that. Even then, let's say it's $300. So, all right, you have $650 left. You can feed yourself. You can buy clothes with what's left over. And you have enough to put a couple $100 away for emergencies, so forth and so on. Take $100 out depending on what kind of car you drove, and that would be for your gas. So still money left over. So you had time. You can save and you can move from there. Not everybody was set up like that. The people that are coming in now, the pay rates are still the same as they were back then. So let's say with the increase, now the threshold is $1,500. Okay. Rent anywhere, even if you rent a room, it's like $125 to $150 a week minimum that I've seen. Minimum. So 4 weeks. And this is just a 4-week month. There are some months that have 5 weeks. So 4-week month, let's say at the max, $150 a week. Now that's doubled to $600 a month. Okay. So now you have everything that I just mentioned doubled, because everything has doubled since then. You cannot feed yourself on that. That's what they expect everyone to live in a fucking room, because apartments in a city are always higher than that. Now, if you do low income, then you have to worry about the crime that's in that area. So all of this is a struggle and a fight. The point is that I'm trying to make. It's a struggle and a fight. If you live in that kind of shit and have to struggle through that shit, then you can relate. And you are the ones that should be making the laws and shit like that, so that it works for people. And this is how people end up homeless, because these same exact people have to live paycheck to paycheck. They miss 1 week of work for, let's say, getting sick. And here recently, 2 weeks of work for COVID. That 2 whole weeks, that's 1 whole paycheck. Then what? Then what? Their entire life is wrecked, because now they're sitting there struggling to figure out how they're going to get caught up. That 2 weeks that they were out has damaged them for months. Do they have any help there? Let's say you go to unemployment and say, hey, I was out for 2 weeks. I need some help. It's going to take them a month to figure out whether or not they're going to give the shit to you. It takes them that fucking long to make the decision. And then, same with food stamps. In most cases, you can get everything instantaneously while they process it, obviously. They don't want to actively have you starving. But at one point, you had to wait for your benefits. You had to wait, flat out. You had to wait. It was people who were in there like, look, I have children. That's the only time that you can get the shit, really. Like, you can get the shit is if you have children. But if you're just a single adult and you're trying to get these services, they really do make you wait. Not all the time, but most of the time. And when you have that situation going on, let's say you're struggling for those 2 weeks, they don't give a fuck. They don't understand what being derailed means. You literally lose your entire life because you were off those 2 weeks with illness. You have a legitimate reason why you're fucked up, because the economy is so ass backwards. If you're down on the lower end of the totem pole, you're meant to stay there. So that's why it's so difficult to pull yourself out of that. It's meant for you to be there. But that's another story. I hate talking about it. It just pisses me off so bad. And I'm trying to, at the same time, be diplomatic in what I say. Because I understand there are masters and servants in the world. Not everybody's meant to be on the top. And so there has to be people on the bottom. I understand that. But it's because the people that are meant to be on the bottom, that are poised to be on the bottom, are people of color. So I'm trying to keep this as fair and diplomatic and not keep bringing up race in every cast, but it's so difficult when I've seen those situations. I've been friends with people who were in those situations, just all around experienced it, and it just really pisses me off to have to talk about it, because it shouldn't be a thing. It should not be a fucking thing where people have to struggle to eat. You have to beg people for food, for assistance, for food. Fucking food. Something that is free. in this world. It was free. It grows out of the ground. But there are laws governing that because the corporations told the fucking lawmakers that there needs to be. So they can continue to have their field day. Their greedy field days. But that's another story. You have to have a fucking place to call your own in order to grow your food. So, if you happen to be homeless, that puts you out of that, doesn't it? It's just disgusting. It's fucking disgusting. And I try not to have anger and hate in my heart. That's why I call it disgust. Because it's just nauseous making that people exist that can sleep at night knowing that their decisions kill people. Knowingly killing people by letting them starve. By letting them be in the elements. And not giving a fuck while they sit in front of their fireplaces with their families and their wine and their charcuterie boards. Fuck you. If that's you, fuck you. And that's from the deep depths of every person's soul who fucking struggles. Fuck you. Now anyway, society is just one large herd. And we need to branch off. We still can be masters and servants and still do right by humanity. We still can do well for each other. No matter what level we are in. Because eventually, those tides will turn. Some servants will become masters. Some masters will become servants. Again, that's how evolution, social evolution works. So we need to make sure that we're prepared for whatever position we're supposed to take. We need to be prepared for that. Because if you have never been in either, you can easily lose. So if you've always been poor and homeless and you move into the master position, you somehow make millions, whatever happens in your situation, and you get boosted up to that position, you need to be prepared for that. Because you've never had it before, you wouldn't know how to handle it. And a fool and his money is always eventually separated. A fool doesn't mean a stupid person. A fool is also an ill-informed person. So, for example, people who have never had money don't know how finances work. So they may make bad financial decisions that may put them right back where they started. Or they may trust the wrong people to make the financial decisions for them because they aren't financially savvy and know what they're looking at and understanding what it is they're being presented. That's why you've seen it. A lot of black people who have had accountants and lawyers who misguided them and stole their money and caused them to go bankrupt because they didn't know anything about money. Or they made poor financial decisions like Magic Johnson not taking on Nike and it all going to Michael Jordan. And look where he is when it comes to that. So not understanding what money is in all of the forms it takes. So we need to be able to make sure we're prepared for those things. Vice versa. Rich people who have never been poor, oh my God, what would they do? What would they do if they ever was on the streets? If they were ever kicked out and on the street and homeless, what the fuck would they do? They wouldn't be able to survive. They'd die. They would literally die. Because they've never been exposed to that. So all of the people that they were against, or the services for them, and all of the people that they mocked, oh, just go get a job, if they're homeless. All of that. Those are going to be the same people that's going to be next to them when they fall, that can show them the way or help them understand what being homeless is about, what to do, where to get food, where to find food. But what did you do? You mocked them and told them to get jobs. You mocked them and told them that they were less than in society when they are people, just like you. So everyone needs to remember that. They need to remember that we're all human. We just hold different positions. And we shouldn't let those positions become who we are. You never know. Never know. That's why you treat everyone good. Always treat everyone good.